Hello and welcome to the BurnCast. I'm Brady Byrne.
And I'm Kim Cast.
Today we're looking at a book called Wycke Cut by author Matthew Fullelove. As always, any criticisms directed towards the authors of works that we discuss are exaggerated for entertainment purposes and are not meant to be taken personally. Thank you for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show. Let's talk about Wycke Cut.
Yes, and let's talk about the name first.
Yeah.
Now, Wycke Cut, not spelt. If you've seen the episode title, you might know, but if you're just listening to this somewhere out in the ether, the BurnCast just happened upon your ears and you didn't see the name of the book. It's called Wycke Cut, W-Y-C-K-E.
When we originally found it, we thought it was Wycke Cut.
Yeah, which is kind of, I thought it, like, he's a water warrior.
Yeah.
Wycke spells to me water warrior.
Yeah, I mean, it could be anything, really. And that's sort of what drove us to this book was the cover, because it's very strange. The cover of this book is some sort of man-beast hybrid, and
Yes.
he's sort of like crouching.
He's in a bit of a goblin stance,
Yeah.
you could say. He's quite gargoylean.
Yeah, and he's got like hooves on his feet, and his head is like some sort of butterfly creature. But the image is like hand-drawn on sort of a canvas. You can tell that the cover is just a picture of a canvas.
Yeah, yeah. And that presents me with two things.
Yeah.
Either that he took a photo of something he liked and then took that. Well, he did it himself.
Penned it himself.
Which I'm going to say that is the scenario, or he got one of his close friends to do so. Now, I don't know that for sure. I can't remember in the book, in the beginning or the end, maybe there's like a cover image reference.
Not really.
I don't think
It
there
doesn't
is.
make any sense. The cover has like this guy with like, he has a butterfly head, and the top of his head looks a bit like a penis. I'm just going to say it.
Yeah, it does. It's very
There's no
phallic.
avoiding it.
I don't know what he was going for, but like you just can't ignore it.
No. And we can't really discern what the reference is supposed to be for, because it's not like there's something like that in the book, as far as I can tell.
No, and I was actually thinking about that right before we recorded this. Did I miss something?
No, you didn't, because I didn't find anything that referenced this strange creature. Now, the book itself is very metaphorical. I would say that it has a strong sense for theme.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, there's a lot to break down there.
Well, we'll break it down then. We found this book, and the first thing you're going to read in this book is these sort of poetic, I'm going to call them poetic, because they sound like they're trying to be poetry.
They're trying to be poetic.
These poetic quotes in front of every chapter, and the first one goes like this. What dreams are these that drive us such? From madness mouth to skeleton touch.
Now, if you're not interested to read further from that line,
We don't blame you.
well, actually, I do blame you, because that's intriguing enough to a person like me that's looking for badness.
Well, something at least that stands out.
Yeah, at least interesting.
And when you read that, it makes no sense.
Oh, yeah.
So I do kind of flip the page, and I wonder, what is this story about? Because the synopsis wasn't very descriptive. The cover is bizarre.
Yes.
But you get into the book, and it opens with a very vivid and rather abstract depiction of someone being chopped by a sword of some sort.
Yeah.
Which turns out to be a dream sequence, of course.
And we get quite a lot of dream sequences, so you throughout the story, it becomes painfully obvious what is and isn't real, and you get it again and again and again. But in the beginning, I was like, what is happening? Which isn't necessarily a bad thing. But
opening your book with a dream sequence, it's...
And also, like, okay, there are a lot of other common issues with this book, as there are with so many of the other books that we read. Grammatical errors, but also there is over-description. It goes way too far, and it comes off very poor.
Yeah.
And then when you're talking about dream sequences, which are just magnets for adjectives and all sorts of flowery description.
I'm describing an abstract scene, so I don't have to be very concrete with my writing.
Yeah.
And that's sort of the excuse I hear from, like, reading the prose of a dream sequence.
And it doesn't make it good.
No.
Give me a dream sequence that's 3 sentences long, I saw images of red, and then a bright horse galloping over a mountain.
Wow.
And then she was there. And then wake up, continue on. Like, that's all I need, because, and to be honest, when you have a dream in real life, you wake up and you kind of forget what it was about anyway. You just have these, like, lasting feelings.
But either way, a guy wakes up from his dream of getting chopped, and we've learned he's some sort of amnesiac. So we've got two classic, I would call them writing shortcut tropes. shortcut being like, the dream sequence is a way to not only demonstrate the floweriness of your writing style, but also like you can kind of start off with some tension. You can be like, oh, he's getting chopped by a sword. He's just walking in the road.
Yeah.
That's not very interesting to start with. So you start with the chopping.
Yes, but it has that initial, if you're going for initial effect of, look at this flowery prose or whatever. Not that I mean flowery prose in the bad way.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then also you have this like a crazy dream.
Yeah.
And then you say, oh, but that didn't happen. Now we start the real story.
Yeah.
You not only have you kind of not impressed me with your writing, but you've also just said that the first thing that has happened in your story didn't actually happen. And now the story starts.
And you don't know how important that's really going to be. So when you see the next dream sequence, you're like, can I skip over this?
Yeah.
And the other shortcut is the amnesia element, which is another way to like immediately give your character purpose.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't have to establish really what this person wants because he doesn't know who he is or where he's going. That's his character now. Yeah. But that's not a character.
No. And I think that the problem with this is just, if done well, it can be one of the most exciting, interesting things to play around with. The lack of memory. Or trying to regain
there's nothing,
prior life or something like that. But
it's the implementation. Because there's nothing like inherently wrong with using either of those. But they're tropes for a reason because they're easy shortcuts to like establishing tension or giving your character a purpose.
And then they're handled with the subtlety of a baboon. Like it's awful.
Yeah.
It really, and
So
I don't know how else to like really paint a picture of how this book is written other than you're going to get all the cliches and they're not going to be used good.
But I wouldn't say that everything about this book is bad because why are we doing an episode on this book when there are a million bad books out there that we could thrash?
We already passed up multiple other books.
Yeah.
In fact, we started reading some other books that...
Yeah, they were bad, but they didn't pan out into something worth talking about.
It also makes... I have this feeling. I'm holding the Kindle in my hands and suddenly it gets very slippery and I just drop it and I won't pick it up again, because I don't want to read that.
Yeah. But this book, there's something about it that's like a bit alluring. Like it's bad in all the common ways, but
it was the penis on the front, wasn't it?
Well...
you just couldn't resist it.
It's not the penis on the front, but the penis inside.
You like it inside.
Yeah. Now, like there's some things about the prose and the setting and the character that kept me reading because... we get back into the mind of this main character, this amnesiac, and he's walking through some sort of fantasy landscape, giving introspection about how he doesn't know who he is, and he doesn't know where he's going. He just knows that he needs to go north. That's his whole drive, basically.
But okay, let's hit the handbrake for a second.
I'm ready to pump the gas.
Let's hit the handbrake for a second, and I just want to say that. Again, it just literally says, I have an urge to go north.
Yeah.
It's repeated a million times.
Yeah. And repetition is something we're going to get into later.
Yeah. But, that it doesn't really describe for me this sort of, is it like, you want to go towards colder weather or like, what, you can describe it a little bit more. Maybe he doesn't know that he wants to go north, but he needs to keep heading down he looks at a sign and he sees one going north and one going south. And he's like, he just makes that decision,
Yeah.
You don't have to tell me in narration over and over again that I just need to go north.
I'm not going to explain why.
No, and I don't even know why. So stop asking me, even though I'm going to tell you again and again.
And every character he meets is going to ask him too, and he's still going to give the same unsatisfying answer throughout the entire book.
Yeah, throughout the whole thing. He just says, I don't know why I have to go north.
I just do, and fuck you for asking.
Yeah, but if you want to know why, I can't tell you why. I just need to.
Yeah. So he's walking down the road. He doesn't know where he's going. He just knows he needs to go north, and he meets someone on the road named Tyrus. And the main character introduces himself as Wycke. Now, we thought this book was called Wycke Cut, but you immediately find out it's Wycke because Tyrus makes a joke and says like, oh, was your father a candle maker?
And I'll hit the handbrake again and just say that this book has one of these like Pirates of Tropica. I'm trying to be funny and it's not really landing, and it doesn't ever land. Not one moment did I even smirk.
It tries to be comedic so much and so often.
Yeah.
And it never lands. Not once throughout the entire book.
Okay, at least in Pirates of Tropica, the action was so silly that,
we're now reaching the point in
where
the podcast
Pirates of Tropical was a good standard. It's like the golden standard of bad writing comedy.
We're retconning our previously terrible opinions because the bar just keeps getting lower.
Yeah, well, you have to shift your opinions with the current meta.
Now, the Candlemaker joke is so funny. It's not just told once, it's told twice.
Yes, we get 2 tastes on that Candlemaker twist joke. Well, it's not a joke. You can't say
but his name is Wycke, just like a candle wick.
Yeah, because he goes to a bar. They go to a bar together. Well, first they encounter some banditos.
They like meet some highwaymen on the street, and
action scene with a lot of exposition about the type of blade he's using and how, it's from the Hillites or whatever, and it's a special thing. And like, look, okay, give me a good character and give me very little world building, and I will care more about your world than if you give me maps and all this sort of stuff, because I care about the person within that world. I don't care about the world at all. So, if you're...
The world is secondary.
It is. It's there to enhance. It's there to give setting. It's there for all of the other reasons. That's the taste, right? But the character is the meal, so to speak.
Yeah.
And if you... I don't care if you just dump a whole bunch of seasoning on a plate. I'm not going to eat it. Give me a piece of chicken underneath that seasoning, and then I'll be interested. Now, are books meals or are they cards still? I'm
losing our references. But the point of the scene is to establish that Wycke, while not knowing who he is, he still knows how to fight.
Yeah,
and he's like some sort of like badass, and he doesn't really know how he's a badass.
Yeah,
and every time Tyrus will ask him, it's like, how did you do that? He's like, I don't know.
No. And don't ask me questions.
Yeah, don't take questions. And because you just asked, and I said, I don't know, maybe that's like the end of the conversation, but it's not.
No,
we're
going to talk about
constantly.
It every single page.
It's the only conversation the two have.
Yeah.
Most of this book is following these two people walking from town to town, and Tyrus asking the same question to Wycke, which he cannot answer.
Yeah.
And that's frustrating.
It is. And, you get it one time and then you're like, okay. But everything happens in repeat.
Yeah.
The two interact with some bad guys. They reach a town. Yeah. They have a interaction with the gate guard or, town merchant or, something like that. And then they go to the bar. And then they meet the character they're kind of there to see. It's either an old friend or like some
sort of contact.
Yeah, the contact or someone important to their mission or whatever. Or it's not important, but I think that you get that scene 4 times, basically easily, on repeat, and throughout the whole thing, it's the same conversation. And
it's literally the only thing they discuss.
It's bizarre because can you not see your story as a whole? Can you not see it as like a a story, dare I say, arc? But instead, you've got a story wave that just goes back and forth, up and down, all the way to the finish. And then,
And in the lulls of that wave, you have Wycke commenting on how, he's asking me that question a lot, and I just can't answer it. I hope he doesn't ask me again. But then he just continues to probe for that same thing.
And again, when we're talking about their dialogue, this dialogue, it's got to be some of the worst I've ever seen.
It's really not good.
Each person, every time they say something, it's an entire paragraph of like this, that, and the other thing. And you actually, by the time you finish reading one line of dialogue, you've forgotten what the person asked in the first place. If there was anything to forget, because it's the same conversation. And it's one of these funny things where you can start on one page, flip 20, and it's like the guy's answering it on the 20th page, the same thing. Sometimes I literally thought he had forgotten. Like he had just forgotten what he had already written and just done it again.
But not just like the dialogue between them. And speaking of Pirates of Tropical, it really did remind me of a Nicholas Sunblade, because like in combat, Wycke will also have
make funny quips,
smarmy. Like when he's in the first Highwayman fight, he like throws his dagger and catches a sword and stuff. And the guy says something to him, and he's like, "I'm deceptively strong," I say in response, then hold a hand to my chin. Besides, who would want to hurt a man with a face this handsome?
Yeah. And he also suggests, like, after there's 5 guys, then he takes out 2 guys, and then the other guys say, "You still think you can take us on?" And he goes, "Well, I already dealt with 2 of you, so I think I'm doing pretty good." Like, and it's like,
it's like if you can't take himself on the back.
Yeah, it's like if you can't take the situation seriously, then I'm not going to care either, because you seem to have it under control. So all the tension is removed.
Yeah, and the biggest problem I would say with this is because you can have comedy like that. You can have comedy in the midst of something serious, even. But Wycke's tone doesn't really match like the narration's tone.
Yeah.
Which the writing tries to be like dark and philosophical, and the prose itself is
trying to be really purpley and
it's okay, but it's really repetitive. And it's trying to be dark. It even does, I would say, a fair job making the setting kind of interesting.
Well, it would be interesting if you got like a little bit of it every once in a while, but you just get loaded with it.
You get like little bits and pieces of it, and then you get a big load. But
again, we're talking about a wavy story, so you get it again and again and again.
But there are some,
and what's in between? Awful dialogue.
Yeah,
like what?
But there are some things that I liked, because Wycke and Tyrus will be talking about like, oh, we can't go that way. That's where the turtles go, and they don't stop and be like, the turtles in this world is blah blah blah. No,
it's not that bad. It's not that bad.
It's just like something you figure out along the way. He's like, oh, those massive roaming fortresses that are dragged by those beasts, we don't want to run into them, and then it just moves on. And some of that's okay.
Yeah, I will say that, for example, like, let's say you've got your band of heroes, and they're off to fight the dragon, yeah?
Yeah.
And they've got this big quest, and everyone knows what is going to happen right at the end. There's a promise, and there's going to be a payout, so to speak. But I don't know what's going to be at the end because I don't even know what he was doing or what he wants.
No.
I don't know what either of the two characters for a large part of the story want. Because they've refused to really... their conversation takes so long to have.
They're constantly talking to each other, and neither is really talking about anything.
Yeah.
Tyrus will be like, I have a daughter.
Yeah.
And are we going to figure out more about that? Maybe at like 70% into the book. But it's like, it takes a very long time for them to discuss very simple things.
On the one hand, you've got one guy who doesn't know anything about what he's there to do or why. And on the other hand, you've got a man who doesn't trust him. So neither one wants to talk very much, except for like very light tonal. Like, you got two characters that can't stop talking, but they don't want to say anything meaningful to each other. And they literally say it within the book. They talk about, I wish I could tell you more, but like, look, I don't know who you are,
Yeah.
And maybe I'll tell you that later, and they keep saying that. They keep saying that they're not going to say anything to each other.
The book keeps promising a reveal, and when that reveal comes, we'll have to get up to it, because the story does keep building up. Like, they don't trust each other, but they sort of bond over time with these like small victories. They fight the highwaymen, they fight some like horsemen.
Every time they make a quippy little comment about the last guy they beat, they gain some companionship.
Yeah, and in one of the chapters, which starts off with the quote, "The road waits patiently for every man, whether he be tyrant, monster, or lamb."
Beautiful, succinct, and
very metaphoric.
Yeah, purple.
Yeah. So they're back on the road, and this time they meet some riders. And Tyrus explains that they're Hitlates, which are like dangerous horsemen. And I just wanted to read a little bit of this. So like the Hitlates shout at them from their horses in their language, and Tyrus shouts back in their language as well. And the narration says, "This seems to make the Hitlates very angry. They leap off their horses, which isn't a good sign. 5 blades are draw in unison, all of them making the same shuddering noise that Tyrus' sword made when drawn." And I look at that and I'm like, not only is the English extremely poor.
I mean, he's just not spell checking it. He's not even reading his own work.
But he knows when to use drawn instead of draw. He made the mistake that he's corrected in the same line. At the end it says, Tyrus' sword made when drawn. But in the start it says 5 blades are draw in unison. And I just look at that and I'm like, dude, just edit your book. You put all this effort in. You put all this thought. But you don't care. You don't care about editing it.
No, because that requires patience and, all the things that all the things that are the difference between someone who thinks that they can write and someone who can actually write is time and effort and patience and diligence. And again, you see it time and time again. The people that aren't going to sit there and take their time and do the work required, unless you're like the Mozart of pen to paper stuff, like, because there are people that can do that. And like, but it's always the unfair thing that people judge themselves against these people and think that they can do the same, but you can't. You just can't. Well, proofread your goddamn book before you sell it to people that are going to expect a finished product for money.
Yeah. And, like, not only that, but there are all sorts of strange edit errors like that. Just random words capitalized in middle of sentences, punctuation errors, spelling errors. And later in that scene, as they're battling with the Hulates, they're fighting, and it says, this is in the language, Yai tai true dest, Yai rut a comstrat. And then it says, he lead Hilate says. And that's a capital H. It's supposed to be the Hilate. And then says, with no full stop. It's just not there. And that's not the only time. It's very consistent, actually, with like when a dialogue is being spoken to not have a punctuation after it. And I'm always like, I don't understand how it can be like so consistently bad. It's not like, every third sentence is missing punctuation. It's always like the period is missing on that specific kind of phrase. Because it has to be on purpose.
I guess you could see it that way. It doesn't matter because we all make mistakes when we write, blah, blah, blah. But this is a finished product. Yeah. It's finished, supposedly. Yeah.
I don't care how hard you tried to make the story because you didn't try at all to actually make it readable.
Yeah. And that's the other half of writing, is to turn a draft into a finished product. Why is there a distinct gap between like these people that seem to jump in and just go like, one and done? I don't need to go back. I know I'm good.
It's perfect the first time I go through it.
It's bizarre. I don't understand.
But either way, in this scene, we get the first glimpse of Wycke's like secret backstory. He has like these tattoos that he can touch, and then he can like stop time. He has an hourglass tattoo, and when he touches it, he slows down time and he kills the horseman and saves Tyrus. And Tyrus gets up and he gets mad.
Because he knows.
He knows that Wycke is some sort of Yuntai.
Joan Tai.
Yeah, he's
Joan Tai. Gene Tens.
Yes, he says, you're a Yuntai, a creature of magic created from a dead body, a trapped soul, and a hell of a lot of magic. Only the Trulanthian have the power to create Yuntai, and the Yuntai only serve the Trulanthian. I might not know you, but I know what you are. And he suggests he's some sort of like demon.
He's like some sort of possessed
corpse.
Yeah, he's like a thrall.
Yeah,
a super thrall.
So he gets really mad at him. He puts like some sort of magic binding chain on him.
Yeah. And
then they kind of just keep going together on their journey.
Now he's a slave to the man.
But Wycke insists, I'm not this thing you say I am. And I think like this is where the dialogue starts to get really repetitive. It already kind of was, but this is where like the same conversation of Tyrus stopping and being like, you tell me what you are.
Yeah.
And he's like, I don't know what I am, but tell me what you are.
Yeah.
But I don't know what I am. And like literally over and over again.
Yeah. And then like they cross a paddock or they leave the town or into the next town and then they leave. And again, you just get, okay, but now we have to figure this out. Who are you? And then he's like, well, I don't know. And if you want to know, but I can't tell you because I don't know. And then they cross another stream or fight some more bandits. And then at the end of it, there's another hold you by the jacket, shaking you.
Tell me what you know.
Yeah, who are you and where
I don't believe you that you don't know, so I'm going to keep asking.
Yes. And it makes you want to pull your own teeth out with a plier.
And not to mention, speaking of like weird errors, Yuntai is sometimes spelled Yangtai with an A instead of an O. Which, that's learn your own fucking words, man. There's even a whole paragraph in this book that's like, center justified. Do you remember seeing that? There's like one paragraph in the whole book where like, not the first sentence, but the rest of it is justified as if it's like a block quote in a research article.
Well,
how the fuck does that happen?
Some of the, like, I was, one thing that I've never seen before is an entire passage of dialogue taking up an entire page.
Yes. True.
And that to me was bizarre. I mean, it's still only like a Kindle page, which is smaller. But, I see the quotation start on one page and then I flip over and it's like, boom, block all the way down and then it ends on the next one.
But it's not just like bad dialogue, but like what they're saying also doesn't make sense. For instance, Tyrus is telling him like, I know about the Trulanthians because I used to work for them. And he's like, I'm an assassin. And Wycke asks him like, oh, you've been this way. He says, aye, a few times, mostly on jobs. Oh, you mean the job where you kill people for money? Or did you have a second line of work? Perhaps arson or robbing the poor? and they're trying to be like bantery.
Yeah.
And
you have to explain that because it just does not come across that way.
No, it actually doesn't. And Tyrus says, I did not kill people for money. That's what highwaymen do. I killed people because it was my job.
So yes, you killed people for money.
Yeah. What else does it mean if it's your job?
Well, they never had a real job, so he doesn't understand the concept.
Yeah, it's like, I read passages like that, and I'm like, you're not just not looking at the words, you're not even thinking about if they make any sense.
No, not at all, no. Because he didn't reread his own thing. He one and done it.
Yeah.
Now, that's the only explanation. If you're telling me that this person sat down and read their own work, which, I mean, I think the inherent problem is that when you have a book this bad and so poor, you don't want to read it again because realistically it's so terrible that no one's going to accept us.
No. And
even me. Can we get this out now? I had to stop.
Well, yes, we did reach a certain point in the book where Kim did not want to continue anymore.
There was a certain remark, a certain sentence that I just couldn't stand. Couldn't stand it. I didn't like it. It was pretty bad, pretty awful.
Yeah, now I'll cover this passage because it is just too good not to quote. So the story slows down. They go from town to town and talk about the magic system and the history and all this boring shit. And eventually Wycke has another dream sequence where he's talking to, like, the darkness inside of him. And Wycke gives his account of things as he speaks to this entity, and he says, I'm Wycke. I was a soldier once. At least I think I was, from the few scattered images I bring back with me from dreams. Whatever I was, it didn't work out too well for me, as I am dead. Not the death of eternal slumber, no. Someone brought me back still dead, but alive as well, and powerful. Some would call me a monster. Some would call me a perversion. I'm still hoping to discover what I can call myself, but I hope someone else might call me friend. At times, there have been indistinct feeling in my head, something that drew me north toward evenfall. And recently there has been a buzzing, but I couldn't say what that means. And then the thing inside smiles and says, that was wonderfully descriptive. Have you thought of a career in storytelling?
And that's where I dropped the book, because...
Literally, he actually dropped the Kindle onto the floor.
I apologize. That was your Kindle. I do
literally
apologize.
Dropped it. Yeah, and Kim put down the book, and I kept on reading. Because I get like 70% of a book, and I can't just toss it. Like, I'm in it already. I've got things to say about it. I got to at least ride it out to the end.
I have a certain threshold, a certain punishment level. And I no longer desire to know what you're writing because you've pulled the finger at me. And I really do feel like it's kind of insulting to someone's intelligence to like...
It's a waste of your time.
Yeah.
And it's telling you constantly throughout the book, you're wasting your time by trying to piece this together.
The characters don't even care about what they're doing.
No.
Like, honestly, they're like, look, I don't know what's going on, and I'm walking up north, but, you keep asking me the same question, and I don't know what to tell you. Like,
now,
and then you get, that's the whole story, and then you get to this part where, like, he's going to go off about storytelling, or he's going to go off about, like, more meaningful, and you haven't even proofread your work.
No.
Like, you're trying to say things?
You're jacking off your weird penis butterfly head in my face.
You're doing that to me now?
Yeah.
I'm not finishing this.
Well, no, I finished it.
I'm not.
I finished it. Now, I wanted to ask you, what do you think happens in the rest of this book?
There's some sort of touch moment in the dream. There has to be a touch moment because that represents the connection, right? Okay, so there's a touch moment in the dream. Either the dark ghost man touches him, or he touches the ghost man, and then boom, he's back and he remembers, and then he is able to ascend his reality, right? It's simulation of sorts, and he goes to what is you might call the real world, yeah. And this real world is governed by these creatures, spider-like creatures, who have an arachnid council of sorts where they control the dream state. Am I hitting some? That's the only story I can think about. That's why I can't write anymore, because that's the story I keep penning. It's like,
It's funny that you mentioned dream state, because
we haven't touched up on it after we read it.
And I haven't read something since dream state that really made my brain tumble the way the rest of this book has.
It's unbelievable to me that you have a story where nothing happens. Nothing at all happens.
And
then
the moment I put it down,
the moment that I put it down, you go off and tell me, oh, it's actually dream state now. I just don't buy it. Why is there a moment that is so offensive to me where I put the book down and then it's like, this is to get all the Kim Casses out of the book. Before you have pen names out there. I swear you write these. I swear you sit down, because sometimes I'm like, this is made to insult me. Like,
it is fascinating that as soon as you put the book down, literally like continuing from the next page, it takes the deepest dive into what the fuck territory that I have seen since Dream State. Now, that didn't really take a dive. That was already deep into the pool already.
Yeah, it was in the Hadal zone, Mariana's Trench. No submarine has ever gone to those depths before.
But so, in the middle of this dream sequence, the plot is at the point where they find Tyrus's daughter and they break her out of prison somewhere. It doesn't matter. But Wycke has this dream sequence, and he calls this thing inside him the monster, with a capital M. Because the only idea in this book is that we have demons inside of us, and this is my monster, and people think I'm a monster, even though I'm really not.
Everyone has demons inside. Everyone's got a monster man in their chest.
And that's what the metaphor is, because it's called a monster.
That's a metaphor.
And people keep calling him a monster, and he says, I'm not a monster. But he really is one. And so he's talking to this thing, and he yells, I'm not a monster. And it tells him, like, I'm the one who's been killing everyone while you've been asleep. Because, like, throughout the story, they wake up and it's like...
and the people are dead.
The people are dead.
Yeah. I got that. I sort of picked up on that as well.
But he wakes up and this monster tells him that it's really me. I've been killing all these people. And it's another one of these, like, smug, evil characters. It's like, oh, it's so cute that you think you can stop me. You know, that kind of thing. Like a comical Disney villain.
My name's Delta 42.
Yeah, basically. And he says, this is the simple part because it's so fun. You are so incredible boring, though. I can barely stand your blundering around. That's why I'm going to give you a special treat. This time I'm going to let you watch. It'll be great fun. And then it takes control of Wycke's body. And now, this is where the story really gets weird. Because the monster takes over Wycke's body, and he goes on like a killing rampage. He just starts killing everyone. His hands are turning into liquid swords.
Oh.
And he's stabbing people in the face. And he's like, I'm going to go kill... Tyrus and his daughter, and I'm gonna make you watch. And so he fumbles around for a little bit. They go back to one of the towns that they were in, and for some reason the monster wants this map. He wants to go find this map, and he's like talking to the person in the tavern, and he says, are you trying to threaten me? The monster says, how positively delicious. Should I quake with fear and run off? He laughs, then says, no, I don't think I will, in a low tone that sounds very threatening.
Oh, yes, it does. I love it when you have to explain, like, how threatening something is.
Because it's not threatening in the dialogue, yeah. And so then he finds this map that he wants. It's just hanging on the wall. And the narration says, after staring at it in silence for a couple minutes, the monster crumples it in a ball and throws it on top of the ooze that was Draven, some guy he melted.
Yeah.
And he says, he then proceeded to pull down my pants and pull out our cock.
Oh, great.
It feels so wrong.
You just can't get around the penis, can you? You just can't write a story. This is the thing. If you're an egotistical writer, yeah, you're gonna involve something to do with the penis. Either it's usually involved like in some sort of sexual act, but sometimes you just got to whip it out.
No, he doesn't do anything sexual. He just pees on the map, but he just had to pull it out.
Yeah, well, but that's my point, is that like whether it's sex or whether it's just pulling it out and just peeing, which is, look at my schlong.
Yeah, I also found the use of the like, it's our cock. I found that just a bit odd.
Odd word choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he's like literally saying, well, the demon's sharing it too now.
Yeah. And now this is where the story gets really good, because they catch up with Tyrus and Lily, the daughter, and Wycke and the monster discover that there is a mysterious, red-headed, cloaked figure in their midst. And Wycke recognizes, somehow, that this is another Trelanthian. Well, there's a Trelanthian, and with him is another Yuntai. Okay? So they begin to fight. They fight the other Yuntai. And the fighting is...
Is it like just anime, like jumping into the air and doing like crazy? Like...
It literally turns into like a Shonen Jump anime.
Oh, great.
Because they're like shooting bolts of lightning and summoning firewalls. And Naruto flipping out of the way. And
well, I actually got that right in the beginning. Now, okay, now we're starting to make up hints. Because in the very first battle scene, and this is what like kind of like made me go, oh. Because you have this fight scene, you've got this old gruffy Tyrus, and then you've got the sort of go-lucky, quippy Wycke, right?
Yeah.
And they meet up and then they fight these bandits and, you know, they blah, blah, blah. And I was kind of expecting more of like Wycke to do, and he does a little bit of fanfare, but I was expecting him to do the backflip. But no, it's actually Tyrus that does the first backflip.
Old man.
It's an old man. You know, and he's supposed to be some gruff sword fighter, and he's the one backflipping. And I was like, okay, so now you've thrown out, look, just don't do backflips. And then I would take your story a little bit more seriously.
Yeah.
But if you make your characters backflip in combat, then I know you just, like, that's the level of seriousness that you're giving.
Well, you know you're getting that anime-style fight where everyone's like this weightless ninja.
Yeah, they can float on top of fences and juggle swords, you know, and ogle their sisters.
Yeah, well... Anyways, they're doing this fight. Lots of crazy stuff happens. Wycke gets burned by some sort of acid breath, but the monster rejuvenates him.
Everyone's just got powers.
Yeah, I mentioned Naruto particularly because at this point I couldn't see it as anything other than some sort of twisted fan fiction. Because in Naruto...
We're not going to do a fan... we're not... You just don't even suggest it.
I'm going to suggest it. In Naruto...
Don't even suggest it.
The main character, Naruto, has some sort of nine-tailed demon inside him, which gives him immeasurable power. And it also makes him ostracized from everyone around him by being associated with this monster inside of him. But that's not really him, you know? It's just the monster inside. It's just like Wycke. But then he learns to be at peace with the monster and his identity. And this gives him power over the Nine-Tails. And when the Nine-Tails is activated, Naruto can fucking fly and shoot fireballs out of his mouth and rejuvenates, just like Wycke is doing right now. And not only that, but the climax of one of the arcs in Naruto involves him facing off with a powerful, red-headed cloaked man, and he has to activate his Nine-Tails power to defeat it. It's almost like a scene-for-scene ripoff.
Well, what about the first parts, like the walking from Pointless Town to Pointless Town and
That's
doing it?
That's just shit.
That's just shit.
It's just the author's own crap.
Yeah. And then
he decided to make it into a Naruto fanfic at the end.
Jesus Christ.
Anyways, the monster inside, he's extremely powerful, and he smashes the Trilanthian's head like a pumpkin. Which is a great little scene.
And please, does he say a line? I
don't think so. I think at this point he's just in like a... Well,
he's in a monster rage?
He's having like...
He's like hulking out?
Yeah, he's not talking in the real world. He's like having an inner dialogue
He's talking in a dream now.
Yeah. him and Wycke are like conversing about what's happening.
Okay.
Yeah, all that stuff. And then he fights the other Yuntai. And he when he goes back when he goes back to battle with the Yuntai, they're like launching themselves in the air and is getting spikes shot at him by the other Yuntai, and Wycke is literally flying at this point. And he goes up into the fucking clouds. He flies up to the clouds. And it says, a hail of spikes shoots from the other Yuntai's hand, hurtling towards us. But the monster just moves upward away from the projectiles.
Convenient.
We were flying, and after all the stuff that has already happened, I shouldn't be surprised, but I am. This weightless feeling is glorious, even trapped in my mind as I am. We head upwards into the clouds, and moisture clings to us. It's funny. I know rain comes from clouds, but I didn't expect them to be wet. This is like what Wycke is thinking while this fucking Dragon Ball Z
he's like having like
happening.
a final battle.
Yeah, this is like his inner dialogue. It's so quaint. It's just a bizarre tone.
No, but that's like absolutely dog shit.
Yeah, no, it's really not good.
Like he doesn't even care about what's going on.
No.
He's just like taking a moment to take in the clouds, so to speak.
And so...
wow, we're wet now. Clouds are wet. Huh. Water comes from clouds, but I didn't think that they would be wet.
No. This is subverting my entire worldview.
Subverting your entire world. Your cloud view.
So then... the monster harnesses the power of lightning from within the clouds to form lightning chains. And then he grabs the lightning chains and he throws them at the Yuntai. I'm not joking. That's like the battle. It says, the cloud starts to swirl around us, turning faster and faster.
He grabs lightning out of the clouds.
Lightning chains.
Well, irrelevant because it doesn't matter. Lightning chains. You can't.
But clouds are wet.
Clouds are wet. Like he's like analyzing clouds, but then all of a sudden lightning can be harvested and thrown.
Yeah, and then he throws the lightning, and it's
an amnesiac or a pyron.
No, this isn't like world destroying stuff. It just burns the guy to a crisp.
Oh,
it cooks the redheaded Yuntai.
Okay.
So he's dead. Well, he cooks it, and then he launches down at it, and he rips its heart out. He punches into the chest, and he pulls out the heart.
Well, that's how you got to deal with demons. Okay, but how come he can fry the lady with laser bombs, but he doesn't get fried with holding laser? Is there an exposition on that particular?
Anime rules.
Does Wycke...
I can hold my lightning
as Wycke is,
saber, but you can't.
As Wycke or Demon is holding lightning, does he stop to, think about the technicalities like he did with the clouds?
No, he's just... he doesn't care. He, literally couldn't care less.
My Demon seems to be able to hold lightning. Now, that is an interesting quirk. Now, I thought lightning was made out of fire, but turns out...
Yeah. Yes, and then they fight, and then this is where the book gets really dream-statey, because after the battle, Wycke goes back into his head, where he talks with the demon again.
The demon, yeah.
And Wycke asks if he's done abusing his body for murder, and the monster responds, "The master wants to keep you alive, along with Lily and Tyrus."
Well, but I thought he wanted to kill them.
No.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. It's just this is what I mean by dream state. It's like he was writing this and he just decided right now
that the old story irrelevant.
Yeah, because now he's saying, how does the prophecy go? The executioner, the flower, the soul seer, the lost soul, and the black heart shall end the reign of the four, which is just nonsense.
That's
exposition
what?
About. That's what I'm telling you.
But that's not like
it's
in
like
the beginning of the book. Yeah.
All this quaint, we're going on an adventure and who am I? And at the end, it's like a big dumb anime fight, and there's a prophecy now, and I'm a part of some big plan with the master, who I'm not going to tell you who it is, and you're a part of a prophecy, and I want to keep you alive, but that's why I'm torturing you, but
also,
at the same
I said
time,
I was going to kill people, but they're part of the prophecy now that I wasn't, so...
And this is the biggest fuck you of the book, is while they're having this conversation, the monster keeps saying stuff like, there's much more to it than that, but I didn't feel like memorizing the whole thing. And Wycke will ask him oh, who's this master of yours? What do they want? And he says, oh, now you're just getting greedy. I can't tell you anything. It would ruin the surprise, and she loves her surprises. Now let's not waste any more time. Come here so we can move things along. And that's what I was thinking about the whole book.
Please, yeah.
And he keeps saying oh, what's the plan then? Torture and eternally trapped going insane, watching you use my body? And the monster says, a lot more than that. Your imagination is so limited.
His imagination is very limited. It's like the author is talking to himself.
Yeah. And Wycke says, I don't care what the plan is. I'm not going to help you. And the monster says, is this the part where I'm supposed to tell you the plan? I couldn't tell you. I only know as much as the master needs me to know. But in a few moments, it wouldn't matter if I did tell you. And this is one of those classic, I don't have the reason, so I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah, it's incredibly lazy. Plus, I thought there was a prophecy.
No, his master.
But he said there's a prophecy, so he must know the prophecy, and the prophecy is...
He didn't memorize all of it.
X will happen, and then this is... You don't get X will happen, and then who knows?
Yeah, and this is where I look at, the book, and it's a strong attempt at doing metaphor, and I think the master's got to be the author, right?
Oh, yeah.
When he's I only know as much as the master needs me to know. Well,
that he's the
writer gave you a limited version of the story.
He himself doesn't know.
No.
He didn't think about it.
No. Now, if you're wondering how is this all going to wrap up, because we're basically at the end, it doesn't. This is basically the end of the book. The monster won't tell him the plan about the master. Wycke wakes up, and Tyrus and Lily are there, and they're wow, you saved us, but you're also an anime demon god.
Yes.
And that's scary, but we trust you now.
Why?
And
why would they trust him?
I don't know. And this is where Wycke tells them he doesn't remember any of that stuff, but he immediately wakes up and says like, my purpose, I know now, is to kill the Trilanthians. I know it in my mind now. That's why I need to go.
Because they're
bad. And
he was
one of them?
Dead soldier?
But he gets some backlash from Tyrus, who tells him, "Oh, you can't do that. They're impossible to kill because they just rebirth themselves into Yuntai." And Wycke tells them, "No, that's what everyone believes, but trust me, I know now how to kill them." And like this just comes out of nowhere. This wasn't a part of the dialogue with the monster. He literally wakes up and he's like, "My purpose is to kill the Trilanthians, and I know how to kill them, even though no one else does."
What?
He says, "Not only do they possess incredible power and have almost invincible guards, but they can cheat death. They've become gods in people's eyes, and you don't challenge gods, but it's not true. There is a source to their power, their immortality, and I know how to turn it off, weaken their powers, and make it so they cannot return this time. Each of the 4 has a source of power, like a focal point, where there is a large concentration of magical energy."
It's just magical energy.
And if you can break it, it can stop them from regenerating.
But why does he know this now? The demon told him?
They continue to... No, they didn't tell them that. They actually keep asking him. They're like, "How the fuck do you know this?" And he just says like, "Unfortunately, I'm the only one who can break the connection, and I'm the only one who knows this." And like, it's just so confusing.
So the author, he did his fight, and now he just like doesn't care, and he'll throw out any reason because the writer doesn't actually care about writing the book.
I know. And so finally...
He just wants to flex his ego.
Yeah. And finally, Tyrus...
Flip out his dick.
Tyrus says... So finally, Tyrus says, "The thing is, Wycke, I really do want to trust you. I really did like you. But all this, I cannot trust you, and I'll be watching you. You might be powerful, but I still have a few tricks that you haven't seen yet. I don't want to use them, but I will if I have to." I nod, understanding, and he frees my other wrist and then moves to free my ankles. With my hands now free, I move to touch the healing tattoo of the cupped hands on my shoulder. I press it, and nothing happens. I press it again, nothing. I tap and I tap and I tap, nothing. I press other tattoos, nothing. I run my hand down my arm and across my body, nothing. My powers aren't working, none of them. End of book 1.
That's it.
That's the end.
End of book 1.
End of book 1. There's going to be a sequel to Wycke Cut.
There's going to be, there has to be a trilogy. No one writes 2 books.
No.
No one just writes 2 books.
But that's not really the end, because guess what's at the end of this book? There's a motherfucking glossary at the end of this book.
A glossary?
A glossary, yeah.
Of terms?
Yeah, explanations for all the creatures and towns and people you've encountered throughout the book.
Who cares about the people in towns? Because the
author cares. Well, not really. I mean, he didn't really care that much about his book.
No. He didn't care enough to proofread or to actually learn how to write.
Well, I was going to ask you, what do you think your explanation is for the poor grammar and writing? Do you think it's like a foreign language issue?
Oh, no. This person's definitely, I would say, native speaker, if not,
Yeah, because I actually do know something about this.
Okay.
Because after the glossary, that's not the end, there's an about the author.
Oh, there is.
Yes, and it says, although born in the UK, Matthew grew up and was educated in Canada and the States, accumulating with an English literature degree from the University of Texas at Austin. Matthew moved back to the UK 15 years ago.
English literature degree.
Yes, he moved back to the UK 15 years ago, and after many years in a successful business, he has returned to English literature as a teacher and a writer.
And that's what he's writing.
He's a teacher of writing.
He teaches writing.
He has an English literature degree. The writing in this is so bad.
I mean, it's awful.
On just like a grammatical level.
Yeah.
This is worse than like A Clash of the Blue Demons was, which is clearly written by someone who's not a native English speaker, but at least he remembers to put fucking full stops at the end of his sentences.
I mean, like how... But like, just let's go beyond grammar and talk about like, story stuff. Like, who in their right minds writes such long passages of dialogue?
Oh, I know.
I mean, that's not something that you can even think is a normal thing because you've never ever seen it in any other book ever. Like, pick up any book. You just go to any bookcase anywhere and pick up a book, like a fiction book, and then see what the dialogue is like.
Yeah.
Hold your book open and the other book open together and look at the difference.
It's just hard to stomach reading that much dialogue. You need to break it up with like people responding. No one just sits there in real life and monologues at someone and then sits there whilst the other person monologues back.
The The only books that have passages of dialogue like that, American Psycho, and it starts off with a massive, it's like an inner monologue, right? He's like talking to himself as he sees someone roll up in a taxi, or he's in the taxi. And because he's a psycho, so to speak, within the context of the story, it's like a super detailed, like I saw the, window pulled down and the cigarette smoke, and it's like all one line, and it's all strung together, and he's just talking about this one scene. But it's amazing because you're like, it's so unreal, and so like no one would ever think like this unless you're like mentally deranged. And so for the idea of making an unrealistic crazy person, you've done a great job. Yeah. But this is dialogue sections of people talking inane, boring, massive, just non-stop to each other about nothing, and it goes nowhere. And then they do the same thing that they did at the last town, and nothing happens.
No, this is definitely a book.
And then they Naruto fight at the end, apparently, which I missed because as soon as
you missed the best, the worst part.
If you do a penis flex about how good your storytelling is, and you try to come in with all your like, I'm the master of my own universe and stuff like that, I'm just going to drop your book. I'm going to drop it on the floor, apparently, and that's going to be it.
Well, yeah, I mean, my main takeaway from this book is editing. And I'm not talking about, like, going back and thinking about, like, character arcs or, like, setting and dialogue.
Because he's not even there yet. Like,
no, I mean, this book needs editing like that, like, really, really badly.
Like, don't even bother if you can't write normal.
No, but if you're not even editing the basic fucking English of your book, if it's this bad and you're an English teacher...
You shouldn't be teaching English.
No.
Like, how can you teach English if you can't even like proofread your own work? Or
if I can go to almost any page in your book and find a very basic grammatical error.
Yeah.
And you're selling it for, I think this book is like almost $4 on Amazon.
You're either saying like, it's okay to have grammatical errors, in a finished product, but also, or you literally don't know or are too lazy.
Am I this hung up on like, am I using full stops and not capitalizing random words in your sentence? Just out of arbitrary, like, needing English to be good. No, it's not really about that. And I think this really struck me today, because I went into town today and I was in a bookstore. And I was looking around at all these books, and I was reminded of what we do, which is read books that will never...
I was out there in town, and I started thinking about me.
Yeah, well, I started thinking about the BurnCast, because I'm in this bookstore, and I'm thinking, like, I might not think every book in this store is good. I might think some of them are pretty bad. But they're in this store, and, someone spent time with a publisher, editing it, working on the cover. Doing all the things that, would get your book in someone's hands. Now I'm going to that bookstore, there's like, thousands of books in there. Who knows which one is going to land in my hands, right? And how can you sit down and write a book like Wycke Cut and think that you're contributing to the craft in any way?
Or that you're even partaking. I mean, it's not even the same thing.
No, and it's like... How can you write something like this and compare yourself to even the worst books that end up in a bookstore?
And he's teaching his English classes or whatever he is doing. And like to a certain degree, like I would say that like, you don't actually need to know too much about English to teach like very low level, English.
Yeah.
But maybe you should have the clemency to make sure that there aren't spelling errors in the things that you're writing,
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, it's something that I feel like this person he says, I'm an author. Mm-hmm. I'm a writer. Look at the things I write.
Look at my beautiful depiction of a penis butterfly.
Yeah. And he's putting himself with those that do something that he does not do. It's like, I don't even know what to describe it as because it seems to only occur in this weird vein of...
Yeah.
There should be a different term for it because you're not publishing it in the same sense that someone is publishing other things.
I mean, there's a good reason why when people say, like, I'm self-published, that many people will kind of, like, huff at that as if, it's like, well...
Anyone can self-publish their work, right? But I don't think it has enough stick yet.
No.
Like, I don't think... If someone tells me they're self-published, like... My reaction should not be to simply huff. It should be to go like, "What a joke!" What like?
Well, I mean, the problem is that self-publishing should be a valid thing.
It should be,
and you shouldn't you shouldn't like immediately think, well, your work's not valid or it's not at a certain quality level just because you self-published it. But we're at that stage now where the majority, the 99 0.9% of books that end up in self-publishing are books far worse than Wycke Cut.
Yeah,
I mean, Wycke Cut is probably in the top percentile of books, and it's shit.
Yeah, it's starting to get something. Amazon is getting worse, and it's getting worse really quickly. It's getting hard for us to find things that are even like actual books. I mean, and I mean that in the lightest terminology, that they have like basic things like chapters or running sentences, or like actually
they're not just blatantly stolen.
Yeah, just
something.
like copy paste, like, you know, I don't even like, they're like print bombs. They're just trying to scam any penny out of anything. They just flood the listings.
Yeah, we found
Tammy novel to every single page of Tammy novel, every single new release. Tammy novel.
Not just stuff like Tammy novel and Rent, who are just fake accounts that steal work and publish it on Amazon. But remember, we found that author that was like literally just reprinting the same book with a different title and a different cover.
Yeah.
And it was just something they stole, some poetry collection, and they would just retitle it and had their entire catalog was this same book, just repeated over and over and over.
And it comes in different forms. On one account, it'll be one thing. On the next account, it will be like Peter Pan over and over and over again with different titles and different cover images. But it's just Peter Pan. It's stolen work. He didn't write that.
Yeah.
And then you have Tammy novel everywhere. And then you have these like weird Chinese, Japanese translation books that have like a terrible image and then say something that is hilarious, but obviously, you know.
And the rest is just garbage shifter romance.
Yeah, and then you have the shifter romances, which, you know, I'm starting to think that like the shifter romances might not be so bad.
Yeah, I would rather read that.
I would rather read
the sequel to Wycke Cut.
Yeah, for sure, because at least then, like, you know, I kind of have an like expectation that something's gonna at least happen. In the shifter romance, I expect boy meet girl, you know, girl don't like boy.
Yeah.
But then money or shifting equals
banging.
Yeah. And money or shifting. Usually both, plus cowboy.
Yeah, some sort of combination of three.
Cowboy, billionaire, shifter. You've got sales. And I'm not talking about like mediocre sales. I'm telling you that I could quit my job and write fucking cowboy, shifter, billionaire romance stories and make a good money like that. Yeah. I could do that.
Yeah, you could.
I have that in my back pocket,
at this point, you should. Okay,
just to prove to everyone that I can't.
Don't write your own Wycke Cut.
No. Okay,
don't waste your time.
Don't waste your time. Go for the money. You need the money.
And if you don't care about money and you're a passionate author like a Clash of the Blue Demons, Vivek Salve, then keep writing.
Yeah, keep writing.
Keep writing and
you
keep
don't have to publish. Put it up for free and let people, you know, enjoy it for free. And don't charge money for it because it's not worth any money.
Yeah, but if you're trying this hard, if you're trying as hard as Wycke Cut, and this is what it's putting out.
Trying so hard? Trying. If you're not trying hard enough to proofread your work, then don't try. Because like that's like building a house but being like, okay, the outside is done. Yeah. Oh, we did the outside. Anyone that drives past this, anyone that scrolls past this book on the list goes, Wycke Cut. Okay.
Well, I took a camera phone image of a canvas drawing that I did. That's good enough.
But it's not. I mean, it's not like the worst thing ever. But the point is that they scroll past, they see it. You drive past the house, you go, oh, a house. As soon as you open the door,
there's nothing.
What the fuck is this? The you know, there's no kitchen furnishings. There's no furniture of any sort. It's just the same room repeated over and over again. And at the end of it, there seems to be some sort of sexual playground.
And there's a man shifting into some kind of beast.
And he has a lot of money.
Well,
he's a billionaire.
That's the final thing I'll say about this book, is that sometimes I'm like, you know, I wish like this effort that we put into doing these episodes could come away with more like, you know, writers out there, here's what you can do to make your work better. And sometimes we get that. Clash of Blue Demons, I felt like I have a sense of I'm giving feedback to someone who's trying really hard and like maybe they can improve and stuff. And when I do this, I'm like, do I really need to tell budding authors out there to proofread your fucking work?
Yeah.
Because if I do, then you shouldn't be writing.
Yeah.
You just shouldn't.
Yeah. If that's not already an accepted
you shouldn't be selling it.
That's not if that is not an accepted part of your procedure, then you're not doing the thing that you're claiming you're doing.
No, your work is not as equally valid as someone who wrote a really bad story, but you know, at least is going basic attention to how it was written.
Yeah, and to be in English, to have a degree.
Come on, guys.
To teach other people and then to produce this, that is obscene.
Yeah.
That's like crazy. I'm a driving instructor, but I don't know how to drive. Can you imagine getting in the car with that man and he's like, all right, so you're going to see some lights up ahead. Just go through.
Yeah, just go through it. Full stops aren't really necessary anyways.
Oh my God.
You could just let the car roll.
You could go to prison for that.
Yeah. Maybe we should start putting writers in prison.
Yeah. We should start.
Well, that was Wycke Cut. Don't read it.
Don't read it. You can read the first chapter and you've got the whole story. Or you could read apparently Naruto stuff happens.
Yeah, some of that's kind of interesting, I guess. Or just go watch Naruto.
Yeah, it's a lot better, apparently. You can read the first chapter and that's like, the first chapter happens again and again and again until 70% in. When
it turns into a schlocky anime.
Yes, that he's apparently stolen heavily from.
Yeah.
Which is even what, like...
Yeah, it's just a ripoff. And hopefully the next one's better.
Yeah.
I think we need a win.
We need a win, yeah.
Thank you everyone for listening and supporting the show. We really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, be sure to subscribe and join in the conversation with us on one of our platforms. You can find us on Discord, Twitter, and Reddit. And we also stream live on Twitch. You can support the show through Patreon or just by sharing the show with your friends. Thanks!